This episode is part of Epstein Files, Official Records, a documentary series focused on what can be verified through public court filings, government documents, and major investigative journalism. Today's subject is Alan Dershowitz, a well-known defense attorney and public legal commentator, and how his name appears in the historical record surrounding Jeffrey Epstein. In the mid-2000s, Jeffrey Epstein was investigated in Palm Beach, Florida, after police received reports involving sexual contact with a minor, including allegations that girls were paid for sexual acts. The investigation expanded, and Epstein eventually faced state charges. Source: Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice, 2018, Julie K. Brown. Source: Public court records summarized in major investigative reporting. In 2007, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida entered a non-prosecution agreement with Epstein. In simple terms, the agreement reflected a decision not to pursue a federal prosecution at that time, and instead to resolve the matter through a state plea agreement with additional terms laid out in writing. The agreement later became the subject of significant public scrutiny and victim rights litigation. Source: Epstein NPA 2007, Document Cloud. Source: Doe v. United States Docket and Orders, Court Listener. Major investigative reporting has described Alan Dershowitz as part of Epstein's defense effort during that 2007-2008 period. Dershowitz's documented connection in the public record is primarily through reporting about the legal team and through his own public statements defending aspects of Epstein's legal resolution. Source: Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice, 2018. Source: Public interviews and statements compiled by major outlets. It's important to be precise about what official records can confirm here. The NPA itself is a public document. The victim rights lawsuit over the NPA is documented in federal court dockets and rulings. But not every behind-the-scenes attorney communication is publicly available, unless it became part of later litigation. Source: Epstein NPA 2007, Document Cloud. Source: Doe v. United States Docket and Orders, Court Listener. Epstein pleaded guilty in Florida State Court in 2008 for solicitation-related offenses. He served a sentence under conditions that later drew intense criticism and public attention. That outcome and the federal decision not to prosecute at that time remained central to the public debate for years. Source: Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice, 2018. Source: Doe v. United States Filings and Orders discussing the 2008 resolution. Fast forward to the next phase of the story: civil litigation. Many Epstein-related disputes did not unfold as criminal prosecutions against every person named in public speculation. Instead, they appeared in civil claims, counterclaims, and defamation suits, where people make allegations under oath, and other parties deny them, and courts manage those disputes under civil rules. Source: Dershowitz v. Jeffrey, Docket and Pleadings, Southern District of New York, Court Listener. Source: Major reporting summarizing claims and denials. Example: Reuters. Source: Related unsealed civil filings. In civil filings associated with Epstein-related litigation, Virginia Jeffrey, who has publicly identified herself, made allegations that included claims involving Alan Dershowitz. Dershowitz has repeatedly denied those allegations. Because this is a living person and the claims were disputed, it's crucial to state this accurately. These were allegations made in civil contexts, not a criminal conviction. Source: Dershowitz v. Jeffrey, Docket and Pleadings, Southern District of New York, Court Listener. Source: major reporting summarizing claims and denials. Example, Reuters. The public docket shows years of motions and disputes typical of high-stakes civil litigation, including arguments about what statements were actionable, what evidence would be relevant, and what should be disclosed. Source: Dershowitz versus Jeffrey, Docket and Pleadings, Court Listener. Source: General Civil Procedure reflected in filings. According to the public docket and major news reporting, the defamation dispute between Dershowitz and Jeffrey ultimately ended through settlement and dismissal. In general, settlement does not equal an admission, and dismissal after settlement does not mean a court made a final determination about every disputed fact point. It means the parties ended the litigation. Source: Dershowitz versus Jeffrey, Docket and Disposal, Court Listener. Source: Reuters coverage of settlement/dismissal. While these civil disputes continued, Epstein's criminal exposure returned to the foreground in 2019 when federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York charged Epstein with sex trafficking-related offenses. These were separate proceedings from the earlier Florida resolution and separate from civil defamation litigation involving third parties. Source: U.S. versus Epstein, SDNY, Docket. Source: Leading news reporting on Epstein's death. Epstein died in custody while awaiting trial. After his death, the federal criminal case against him ended, but investigations and related litigation continued, and public interest increased further. Source: DOJ OIG and major reporting on Epstein's death. Source: SDNY Docket reflects case closure. Another major legal milestone in the Epstein story was the prosecution of Ghislaine Maxwell in the Southern District of New York. Maxwell was convicted in 2021 of offenses related to recruiting and grooming minors for Epstein's abuse. That conviction established facts in a criminal court about Maxwell's conduct based on evidence presented at trial. But it did not automatically adjudicate every allegation that had circulated in other civil claims involving other individuals. Source: U.S. versus Maxwell, Docket and Judgment, Court Listener. Source: DOJ press releases. So where does that leave the record regarding Alan Dershowitz? The most defensible summary based on public sources is narrow. First, major investigative reporting links him to Epstein's defense effort during the period surrounding the 2007 NPA and the 2008 state plea. Second, he was later publicly accused in civil allegations by a public figure, and he publicly and legally denied those claims. Third, the defamation litigation connected to those allegations ended in settlement and dismissal, rather than a criminal adjudication. Source: Miami Herald, Perversion of Justice, 2018. Source: Epstein NPA, 2007, Document Cloud. Source: Dershowitz versus Jeffrey, Docket and Pleadings, Southern District of New York, Court Listener. Source: Reuters coverage of settlement/dismissal. It's important to state what the public record does not show. There is no publicly available criminal conviction of Alan Dershowitz in connection with Epstein, and civil disputes that settle do not produce the kind of final fact-finding you would see in a criminal trial, verdict, or civil judgment after trial. That doesn't prove or disprove every allegation. It describes the procedural outcome that can be verified by public dockets. Source: Dershowitz versus Jeffrey, Docket Outcome, Court Listener. Because the Epstein story has generated many rumors, responsible reporting requires discipline. Use primary documents when possible. Attribute claims to filings or credible investigations. Include denials, and avoid implying guilt where no court has found it. This is especially important when discussing a living public figure. Source: Court records cited throughout. Source: major investigative journalism standards reflected in Miami Herald and Reuters. If you want to explore the documents yourself, start with the text of the 2007 non-prosecution agreement, then review the victim rights litigation that challenged the process around it. After that, consult the federal dockets for Epstein's 2019 case and Maxwell's prosecution, which provide a clearer view of what was actually charged and proven in court. After that, review the docket for Dershowitz versus Jeffrey for the procedural history of the defamation dispute. Source: Epstein NPA